The crystal towers of Zephyria gleamed under the light of 3 suns. Queen Zerathi stood on her palace balcony, looking out at the beautiful city below. Her blue skin shimmered like starlight, and her silver hair moved in the gentle wind. She was one of the most powerful rulers in the galaxy, but today she felt worried. The Galactic Council had been pushing her to make new friends. The Krillian Empire was getting stronger every day. They had bigger ships and better weapons. If they decided to attack Zephyria, her people would be in trouble. She needed allies, but most of the strong species already had their own problems. That was why the humans were coming today. Zerathi had heard about humans before. They were a young species that had only learned to travel between stars about 50 years ago. Most aliens thought they were weak and not very smart. They had small ships and simple weapons. They were good at trading things, but nobody took them seriously in a fight. Still, the council thought it would be good for her to marry one of them. It would show other species that Zephyria was friendly and open to new partnerships. Maybe it would also make the humans want to help her if trouble came. A soft chime told her that the human ship had arrived. Zerathi sighed and walked back into her throne room. Her advisors were already waiting for her. Commander Lisa Stone, her military chief, looked unhappy. "Your Majesty, I still think this is a mistake," Lisa said. "Humans are too weak to help us against real threats. This marriage will make us look desperate." "Maybe," Zerathi replied, "but we need to try something. The Krillians are not going to wait forever." The doors to the throne room opened. Ambassador Ryan Cole walked in first. He was an older human with gray hair and a kind face. Behind him came the man who would become her husband. Captain Jake Morrison was not what Zerathi had expected. He was average height for a human, with brown hair and calm brown eyes. He did not look scared or excited to meet her. He just looked interested, like he was studying everything around him. "Your Majesty," Ambassador Cole said with a bow, "may I present Captain Jake Morrison of the Human Federation. He comes with full authority to negotiate on behalf of our people." Jake stepped forward and bowed respectfully. "It is an honor to meet you, Queen Zerathi. I have heard many wonderful things about your world and your people." His voice was steady and confident. Zerathi found herself curious about him. Most aliens who met her for the first time were either afraid of her power or trying too hard to impress her. Jake seemed neither scared nor eager to please. "Welcome to Zephyria, Captain Morrison," she said. "I trust your journey was comfortable?" "Very much so, thank you. Your space traffic controllers were very helpful. I was impressed by how organized everything was. It was a simple compliment, but it showed he had been paying attention." Zerathi noticed that his eyes had quickly scanned the room when he entered, taking in the positions of her guards and the exits. It was the kind of thing a careful person would do. Over the next few days, Jake proved to be an interesting guest. He asked good questions about Zephyrian culture and history. He listened more than he talked. When he did speak, his words were thoughtful and showed he understood what he had learned. The marriage negotiations went smoothly. Jake did not ask for much. He wanted to keep his human citizenship and be able to talk to his family back home. He also wanted to learn about Zephyrian military defenses, which he said would help him advise on human-Zephyrian cooperation. "That seems reasonable," Zerathi told her advisors. "If he is going to be my husband, he should understand how we protect ourselves." Commander Stone still looked doubtful. "Your Majesty, giving military information to humans could be dangerous. What if they share it with other species? What could humans do with our military secrets?" asked Prince Nexton, Zerathi's younger brother. "Their whole fleet could not fight one of our battleships." Jake just smiled quietly when he heard comments like this. He never argued or got angry. He just nodded and changed the subject to something else. The wedding ceremony was planned for the end of the week. Representatives from dozens of alien species would come to watch. It would be the biggest event on Zephyria in years. 2 nights before the wedding, Zerathi found Jake in the palace garden. He was sitting by the fountain looking up at the stars. "Do you miss your home?" she asked, sitting beside him. "Sometimes," Jake said, "but Earth will always be there. This is a chance to build something new. Are you worried about marrying someone you barely know?" Jake turned to look at her. In the moonlight, his face was serious but kind. "I think you're a good person who cares about her people. That is enough to start with. The rest we can figure out together." It was a simple answer, but it made Zerathi feel better about their arrangement. Maybe this marriage could become something real. The wedding day arrived with perfect weather. The ceremony was held in the great plaza in front of the palace. Thousands of Zephyrians came to watch, along with alien diplomats from across the galaxy. As Zarathi and Jake exchanged vows, she noticed how calmly he handled the attention. Most humans would have been nervous speaking in front of so many powerful aliens. Jake seemed completely comfortable. When they kissed to seal their marriage, the crowd cheered. Zarathi felt a small spark of hope. Maybe this human was more than he seemed. Maybe their marriage could help her people after all. Neither of them knew that in the dark spaces between stars, Krillian ships were already moving towards Zephyria. Jake's new life in the Crystal Palace was different from anything he had known before. Every morning he woke up in rooms that were bigger than most human houses. The walls were made of living crystal that changed color with the light. Servants brought him food he had never tasted, and clothes made from materials that felt like silk but were stronger than steel. Queen Zarathi had given him his own wing of the palace. She was kind but distant, still getting used to having a husband. They ate dinner together most nights and talked about their different worlds. Jake found her smart and funny when she relaxed enough to show her real personality. "What was your job before you became a diplomat?" she asked one evening. "I was in the military," Jake said simply. "Nothing too exciting. Mostly planning and logistics." It was not exactly a lie, but it was not the whole truth either. Zarathi nodded and did not ask more questions. Most aliens thought human military service meant moving supplies or doing paperwork. Jake spent his days learning about Zephyrian society and technology. He visited factories and research centers. He talked to scientists and engineers. Everyone was happy to explain things to him because they thought he was harmless. "Look at this," Dr. Kexela said, showing Jake a new shield generator. "It can protect a whole city from plasma weapons. Your people could never build something like this." "Very impressive," Jake agreed, studying the device carefully. "How does it handle frequency modulation attacks?" Dr. Kexela looked surprised. "That is a very specific question. Most diplomats do not know about military technical details." "I read a lot," Jake said with a smile. "I want to understand how your technology works so I can explain it to my people back home." What Dr. Kexela did not know was that Jake had spotted 3 major weaknesses in the shield design just by looking at it. But he kept that information to himself. After 2 weeks on Zephyria, the first bad news arrived. A Krillian raiding fleet had attacked the mining colony on Zephyria. 7. They had destroyed 2 cargo ships and stolen valuable metals before disappearing into hyperspace. "Commander," Stone called an emergency meeting in the war room. The walls were covered with star maps showing Zephyrian space. Red marks showed where Krillian ships had been spotted in recent months. "They are testing our defenses," Stone said, pointing at the map. "Each attack gets a little closer to our main worlds. General Vextar is planning something big." Prince Nexton leaned forward. "How many ships do we think he has?" "Our spies say at least 300 warship," Stone replied. "Maybe more. They have been building new ships for 5 years. Jake sat quietly in the corner, watching and listening. Queen Zarathi had invited him to the meeting so he could learn about Zephyrian security. Most of the officers ignored him, thinking he would not understand military strategy. "What about asking for help from the Valdani Republic?" suggested Admiral Korth. "They have a strong fleet. The Valdani are busy fighting their own wars," Stone said. "They will not risk their ships for us." "The Centaurian Alliance? They are too far away. By the time their ships arrived, the war would be over." Jake raised his hand slightly. "What about creating false sensor readings to make your fleet look bigger than it really is?" The room went quiet. Several officers looked at him with surprise. "That is actually not a bad idea," Admiral Korth said slowly. "It might make the Krillians think twice about attacking." "Humans have used tricks like that before?" Commander Stone asked. "Sometimes," Jake said. "When you have fewer ships, you have to be creative." What he did not tell them was that he had personally planned 3 different deception operations that had fooled alien fleets 10 times the size of the Krillian force. But that was not something a simple diplomat would know. Over the next few days, more raids happened. The Krillians hit supply depots and communication stations. They were always gone before Zephyrian ships could respond. It was clear they were mapping out the defenses and looking for weak spots. Jake asked Queen Zarathi if he could use the palace communication array to call his family on Earth. She agreed, thinking it was natural for him to want to stay in touch with home. What she did not see was the complex encryption Jake used for his calls. The messages looked like personal conversations, but they were actually detailed intelligence reports. Jake was sending information about Krillian movements, Zephyrian military capabilities, and potential strategic options. The replies came back looking like news from home and family updates, but hidden in the ordinary words were tactical assessments and strategic recommendations from some of the best military minds in human space. One night, Jake could not sleep. He walked through the palace gardens thinking about the growing threat. The Krillians were moving faster than he had expected. At this rate, they would be ready to attack within weeks. He found Queen Zerathi sitting by the fountain where they had talked before their wedding. She looked worried and tired. Could not sleep either? He asked, sitting beside her. I keep thinking about my people, she said. If the Krillians attack with their full fleet, we cannot stop them. Our shields are strong, but they have plasma cannons that can crack planets. Jake wanted to tell her that help was closer than she knew. He wanted to explain that human ships were already moving through the dark spaces between stars. But his orders were clear. Humanity was not ready to reveal itself yet. You are stronger than you think, he said instead. Your people are brave and smart. You will find a way. Will your people help us if the worst happens? She asked. Jake looked at her in the moonlight. She was trying to be strong, but he could see the fear in her eyes. Not fear for herself, but for her people. Yes, he said quietly. I promise you that. It was a promise he had no official authority to make. But Jake knew that when the time came, he would keep it no matter what it cost him. The next morning brought terrible news. Long-range sensors had detected a massive fleet gathering in the Krillian border system. More than 200 ships, including their newest dreadnoughts. Intelligence reports said General Vexitar himself was leading the force. In the war room, panic was starting to set in. We have maybe 40 ships that can fight, Commander Stone said. Even if we call back every patrol ship and cargo escort, we are outnumbered 5-1. We could evacuate the royal family, suggested Admiral Korth. Get them to safety before the attack comes. No, Queen Zerathi said firmly. I will not abandon my people. Jake watched the debate with growing concern. The Zephyrians were good fighters, but they were thinking like people who expected to lose. They needed more time to prepare, or they needed help they did not know was coming. That night, Jake sent another encrypted message to Earth. This one was different from the others. It was shorter and used emergency codes that would get immediate attention from the highest levels of human command. The message was simple. Situation critical. Request permission to break cover if necessary to prevent genocide. The reply came back within hours. Permission granted. Do what you must to protect innocent lives. Jake deleted both messages from the communication logs. Then he went to find his wife. It was time to start preparing her for the truth, even if he could not tell her everything yet. Tomorrow, the Krillian ultimatum would arrive. The Krillian fleet dropped out of hyperspace at dawn. Queen Zerathi was eating breakfast when Commander Stone burst into the dining room without being announced. Your Majesty, they are here, Stone said, breathing hard. 230 ships. They are holding position just outside our defense perimeter. Jake looked up from his meal. His face was calm, but Zerathi noticed his hand had moved closer to his communication device. It was a small thing, but she was learning to watch for his quiet reactions. Have they sent any messages? Zerathi asked. Not yet, but our sensors show their weapons are powered up. They are ready for battle. Within an hour, the communication came. General Vexitar himself appeared on the main screen in the throne room. He was a large Krillian with red scales and yellow eyes that seemed to glow with anger. Behind him, Zerathi could see the bridge of his flagship, filled with weapons consoles and battle displays. Queen Zerathi of the Zephyrian Empire, Vexitar said in a voice like grinding metal. I come to offer you one chance to save your people from destruction. Speak your terms, Zerathi replied, keeping her voice steady. Surrender your fleet and your planetary defenses. Accept Krillian rule over your worlds. Do this and your people will be allowed to live as our servants. Refuse and we will turn your beautiful crystal cities into dust and glass. The throne room was completely silent. Everyone was staring at the screen, afraid to move or speak. You ask me to give up everything my people have built, Zerathi said. I am not asking, Vexitar replied. I am telling you what will happen. Your fleet is weak. Your weapons are old. You have no allies strong enough to help you. The outcome of a battle is certain. Jake stepped forward slightly. Vextar's eyes focused on him with amusement. And what is this? The Krillian general asked. A human? How far you have fallen, Queen Zerathi. To marry one of the galaxy's most pathetic species. Several Zephyrian officers shifted uncomfortably. Jake just stood quietly, his hands clasped behind his back. Humans, Vextar continued, are good only for carrying cargo and cleaning waste systems. They have no real ships, no real weapons, no courage for fighting. This creature you married is proof that you have lost your judgment. Jake's expression did not change, but Zerathi saw something flicker in his eyes. It was gone so quickly she almost missed it. I give you 24 hours to decide, Vextar said. Surrender or watch your world burn. Choose wisely, Queen Zerathi. It will be the last choice you ever make. The transmission ended. The throne room remained silent for several long seconds. Then everyone started talking at once. We have to evacuate the cities, said Admiral Korth. There is no time, Commander Stone replied. They could attack at any moment. Maybe we can negotiate for more time, suggested Prince Nextan. The Krillians do not negotiate, Stone said. They take what they want. Queen Zerathi raised her hand for silence. Call the War Council. We meet in 1 hour. The next hour was the longest of Zerathi's life. She sat in her private chambers, staring out at her beautiful city. Soon it might all be gone. Her people would be dead or enslaved. Everything her family had built over thousands of years would be destroyed. The War Council meeting was grim. The best military minds on Zephyria could not find a solution. Our shields can hold against their weapons for maybe 6 hours, Commander Stone reported. After that, they will break through. What if we scatter the fleet? Asked Admiral Korth. Make them chase us through the asteroid fields? They have too many ships. They would catch us eventually. Could we send messages asking for help from other species? Who would come? Everyone is afraid of the Krillians. They would not risk their own fleets for us. Jake sat in the corner listening to everything. He had been making notes on a small tablet, but he had not spoken since the council began. Finally, Queen Zerathi could not stand it anymore. Does anyone have any ideas that might actually work? The room fell silent. No one wanted to say what they all knew. Zephyria was doomed. Jake looked up from his tablet. Your Majesty, could I speak with you privately? Several officers looked annoyed. This was not the time for personal conversations, but Zerathi nodded. The council will take a short break, she announced. When they were alone in the side chamber, Jake turned to face his wife. His usual calm was still there, but something else had been added. Something that looked almost like, Command presence, Zerathi, I need you to trust me, he said quietly. What do you mean? I mean trust me completely. Give me 12 hours before you make any decisions about surrender. Zerathi stared at him. Jake, this is not a game. My people are going to die. I cannot waste time on false hope. I am not asking you to waste time. I am asking you to give me a chance to help. How? What can you possibly do against 200 Krillian warships? Jake was quiet for a moment. He seemed to be weighing his words very carefully. I cannot tell you everything right now, he said finally. But I can tell you this. You are not as alone as you think you are. What does that mean? It means that sometimes the weakest-looking person in the room is not weak at all. Sometimes they are just being very, very careful about when to show their strength. Zerathi felt a chill run down her spine. Something in Jake's voice had changed. He was still speaking softly, but there was steel underneath the quiet words. Jake, what are you not telling me? Things that could change everything. But I need those 12 hours first. Can you give them to me? Zerathi looked into her husband's eyes. She had been learning to read his expressions over the past few weeks. Right now, he looked like a man who knew exactly what he was doing. If I give you 12 hours, what happens to my people if you are wrong? Then we will face the Krillians together. But I do not think I am wrong. It was an impossible decision. Everything logical told her to begin evacuation procedures immediately. But something about Jake's confidence made her hesitate. You really think you can help? I think, Jake said carefully, that General Vextar is about to learn that humans are not what he thinks they are. Zerathi made her choice. It was probably the wrong choice. It was almost certainly going to get her people killed, but she was going to make it anyway. 12 hours, she said. But Jake, if nothing happens, I have to surrender. I will not let my people die for pride. Understood, Jake said. And Zerathi, thank you for trusting me. When they returned to the War Council, Zerathi announced her decision. Most of the officers looked shocked. Your Majesty, 12 hours will not be enough time to evacuate even half the population, Commander Stone protested. I understand the risks, Zarathi replied, but we are going to wait. Jake had already left the room. He was walking quickly toward the communication center, pulling out his tablet as he moved. Whatever he was planning to do, he was already starting. In her heart, Queen Zarathi hoped she had not just doomed her world. But something told her that her quiet human husband was about to surprise everyone. She just hoped the surprise would be big enough to save them all. 10 hours had passed since Jake asked for 12. Queen Zarathi stood in the command center, watching the countdown timer that would seal her people's fate. The Krillian fleet waited in perfect formation, like hungry predators ready to strike. Jake had spent most of those 10 hours in the communication center. Zarathi had checked on him twice, but he had just asked for more time. Whatever he was doing, it required a lot of encrypted messages sent to coordinates deep in human space. Commander Stone looked exhausted. Your Majesty, we should begin the surrender protocols. Maybe if we start early, Vextar will be more merciful. 2 more hours, Zarathi said firmly. I gave my word. At that moment, the sensor operator called out in confusion. Your Majesty, I am reading strange energy signatures at the edge of the system. Something big is coming out of hyperspace. Krillian reinforcements? Asked Admiral Korth. No, sir. These signatures are different. I have never seen anything like them. On the main display, space itself seemed to twist and bend. Reality rippled like water, and then ships began to emerge. But these were not like any ships anyone had ever seen. They were sleek and angular, colored in deep blue and silver. They moved with impossible grace, as if the laws of physics were just suggestions to them. The smallest of them was twice the size of a Krillian dreadnought. The largest was bigger than a space station. How many ships? Zarathi asked, her voice barely a whisper. 50. No, 70. Your Majesty, they are still coming. I count over 100 ships now. The Krillian fleet was also reacting to the newcomers. Their perfect formation was breaking up as ships turned to face this unexpected threat. General Vextar was probably as confused as everyone else. Jake walked into the command center. He looked different somehow. His usual quiet manner was still there, but now it seemed less like shyness and more like the calm of someone who knew exactly what was happening. Jake, Zarathi said. Whose ships are those? They are human ships, Your Majesty, Jake replied. The command center went dead silent. Everyone stared at him like he had just claimed the stars were made of cheese. That is impossible, Commander Stone said. Humans do not have ships like that. Actually, Jake said calmly, we do. We have had them for quite a while. The largest of the newcomer ships was moving toward the planet. It was magnificent, shaped like a sword made of starlight and metal. Its hull gleamed with energy patterns that hurt to look at directly. This is Admiral Katie Sullivan of the Human Federation ship Valiant, came a voice over the communication system. The speaker sounded confident and professional. I am requesting permission to speak with Queen Zarathi and Colonel Jake Morrison. Colonel? Zarathi turned to stare at her husband. Jake, what is going on? I think it is time for some honesty, Jake said. He touched his communication device and his voice changed slightly. When he spoke again, it carried the unmistakable tone of military command. Admiral Sullivan, this is Colonel Morrison. Permission granted. Patch through to the command center. A woman appeared on the main screen. She had the same brown hair as Jake and similar eyes. She wore a uniform that was clearly military, but made from materials that seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. Hello, little brother, Admiral Sullivan said with a slight smile. Sorry we are late. Traffic was heavy in the outer systems. Sister? Queen Zarathi looked back and forth between Jake and the screen. Jake, I demand an explanation right now. Jake straightened up. When he did, his whole posture changed. The quiet diplomat was gone, replaced by someone who clearly knew how to lead soldiers into battle. Your Majesty, may I present Admiral Katie Sullivan, commanding officer of the Human Federation's Deep Space Fleet. She is also my older sister and my superior officer. Your superior officer? Commander Stone interrupted. But you are just a diplomatic captain. No, Jake said quietly. I am Colonel Jake Morrison, Special Operations Command, Human Federation Military. My diplomatic credentials were simplified for this mission. Admiral Sullivan's image nodded to Queen Zarathi. Your Majesty, my brother has been sending us reports about the Krillian buildup. When he requested emergency assistance to prevent a genocide, we came as quickly as we could. But humans do not have technology like this, Prince Nextan protested. Your ships are primitive. Everyone knows that. Everyone knows what we have chosen to let them know, Admiral Sullivan replied. For the past 60 years, humanity has been developing technologies that most species would find disturbing. We have found it useful to appear less advanced than we actually are. On the tactical display, the human fleet was spreading out in a formation that looked almost casual, but Zarathi noticed that each ship was positioning itself to cover multiple Krillian vessels. Admiral Sullivan, came a new voice over the communication system. It was General Vextar, and he sounded angry. I do not know what deception this is, but you will remove your ships immediately or face the consequences. General Vextar, Admiral Sullivan replied in a voice like ice. You are threatening the allies of the Human Federation. I suggest you reconsider your position. Allies? These pathetic humans are no threat to the Krillian Empire. Colonel Morrison, Admiral Sullivan said, please demonstrate our current tactical capabilities for the general. Jake walked to a control console that had been installed just for him. Zarathi realized she had seen technicians working on it earlier, but had not understood what it was for. Targeting Krillian ships 1 through 10, Jake said in a professional tone. Weapons set to disable mode, firing. Nothing seemed to happen for a moment. Then on the display, 10 Krillian warships simply stopped moving. Their engines went dark. Their weapons powered down. They hung in space like dead metal. What did you do? Vextar's voice had lost its confidence. We used focused gravitational pulse weapons to shut down your power systems, Admiral Sullivan explained. Your ships are undamaged, but they will not be flying or fighting for several hours. Impossible. No species has that technology. General, you're thinking too small. Most species develop technology to build things. Humans found something much more interesting. We learned how to take things apart. Jake looked at his wife. Zarathi, what I'm about to tell you is going to sound crazy. About 150 years ago, human explorers found the ruins of an ancient civilization in our home system. They had been dead for millions of years, but their technology was still working. The precursors, Admiral Sullivan continued, they had learned to manipulate the basic forces of reality. Gravity, time, space, energy. We have spent more than a century learning to use their tools. But why hide it? Queen Zarathi asked. Why pretend to be weak? Because, Jake said quietly, this kind of power scares people. If other species knew what humans could really do, they would try to destroy us before we became a threat. So we decided to be very quiet about our capabilities. General Vextar's voice interrupted them. This deception changes nothing. Even if you have advanced weapons, you only have 100 ships. Admiral, Jake said, I think the general needs a better understanding of our situation. Agreed. All ships full tactical display. The space around Zephyria suddenly filled with light. Energy signatures bloomed like flowers made of starfire. What had looked like 100 human ships revealed themselves to be 300. Advanced stealth systems deactivated, showing the true size of the human fleet. But that was not the most shocking part. Each ship began to show its real capabilities. Weapons that could crack moons powered up. Shields that could stop supernovas activated. Engines that could fold spacetime itself hummed with barely contained energy. General Vextar, Admiral Sullivan said calmly, you now have 30 seconds to order your fleet to retreat to Krillian space. If you refuse, we will disable every one of your ships and tow them home behind us. The choice is yours. The communication channel went silent. On the display, the Krillian fleet was clearly in confusion. Ship formations were breaking apart as captains received conflicting orders. Finally, Vextar's voice returned. It sounded very different than before. Human fleet, this is General Vextar. We are withdrawing from Zephyrian space. This conflict is postponed. Wise decision, General. Have a safe trip home. One by one, the Krillian ships began jumping back into hyperspace. Within 10 minutes, they were all gone. Queen Zarathi sat down heavily in her command chair. She looked at Jake, at Colonel Morrison, and shook her head slowly. My husband is one of the most dangerous humans alive. Humans have technology that can reshape reality, and I just watched 200 Krillian ships run away like scared children. Is there anything else I should know? Jake smiled. It was the same gentle smile she had fallen in love with, but now she understood the strength that had always been hiding behind it. Well, he said, I do actually love you. That part was never an act. 3 days after the Krillian fleet disappeared, Queen Zerathi still felt like she was living in a dream. The human ships remained in orbit around Zephyria, their impossible technology making her own advanced civilization look primitive by comparison. She stood in her private chambers, watching Jake, Colonel Morrison, as he spoke with his sister through a secure communication link. He was giving a detailed report about Zephyrian defenses and political structure. His voice was crisp and professional, nothing like the quiet diplomat she had married. When the call ended, Jake turned to face her. For a moment, they just looked at each other in silence. You lied to me, Zerathi said finally. Yes, Jake replied. I did. About everything? About who you are, what you do, why you came here. Jake sat down across from her. Not everything. I really am Jake Morrison. I really am from Earth, and I really do love you. But you are not a diplomat. No. I am a colonel in human special operations. My mission was to observe Zephyrian military capabilities and assess potential threats in this sector. Zerathi felt anger building in her chest. So our marriage was just part of your job? Jake was quiet for a long moment. It started that way, he said carefully. The marriage was supposed to give me access to your military information and government meetings. But somewhere along the way it became real for me. How can I believe anything you say now? Because I broke my cover to save you, Jake said simply. My orders were to maintain the deception no matter what. By revealing human capabilities, I have ended decades of careful planning. My career is probably over. Why did you do it then? Jake looked directly into her eyes. Because I could not watch you die. Because your people did not deserve to be enslaved. And because I realized that some things are more important than following orders. Zerathi stood up and walked to the window. The human fleet was still there. A reminder that everything she thought she knew about the galaxy was wrong. Your people have been watching us for years, she said, studying us like laboratory animals. Not just you. We have been watching everyone. The Krillians, the Valdani, the Centaurians. We needed to understand the galaxy before we revealed ourselves. And now everything changes. Word is already spreading about what happened here. Every species in the galaxy knows that humans are not what they seem to be. Queen Zerathi turned back to face him. What happens to us? To our marriage? That depends on you, Jake said. I understand if you want me to leave. I understand if you never want to see me again. But if you are willing to try, I would like to start over, this time with complete honesty. Before Zerathi could answer, Commander Stone's voice came over the communication system. Your Majesty, you need to see the latest intelligence reports. The whole galaxy is in chaos. The command center was buzzing with activity when they arrived. Displays showed news feeds from dozens of worlds. Alien leaders were making emergency announcements. Trade routes were being renegotiated. Military alliances were being reconsidered. What is happening? Zerathi asked. Everyone is afraid, Commander Stone reported. The Valdani Republic has sent ambassadors asking for human friendship. The Centaurian Alliance wants to know if humans consider them a threat. 3 minor species have applied to join the Human Federation. And the Krillians? General Vextar has been removed from command. The Krillian government is claiming the attack on Zephyria was unauthorized. They want to negotiate a peace treaty. Admiral Sullivan appeared on the main screen. Your Majesty, we are receiving communication requests from over 40 different species. They all want to talk to humans about trade, alliances, or mutual defense pacts. How are you handling it? Jake asked, very carefully. 60 years of pretending to be weak means most species do not know how to deal with us now. Some are terrified. Others are angry that we deceived them. A few are impressed and want to be our friends. Prince Nexodon spoke up. What does this mean for Zephyria? Admiral Sullivan smiled. That depends on what your queen decides. We would be honored to have Zephyria as our first official ally in this part of the galaxy. An equal ally? Zerathi asked. Completely equal. We are not interested in ruling other species. We just want to make sure everyone can live in peace. Over the next week, teams of human and Zephyrian officials worked together to create a new alliance treaty. It was unlike anything that had ever existed in the galaxy. Instead of one species dominating another, it was a partnership between equals. Jake found himself in an unusual position. Officially, he was still married to Queen Zerathi. Professionally, he was the human military officer responsible for the sector. Personally, he was trying to rebuild a relationship based on truth instead of deception. It is strange, Zarathi told him one evening as they walked through the palace gardens. I thought I was marrying a simple diplomat. Instead, I married one of the most powerful humans in the galaxy. I am not that powerful, Jake protested. Jake, you commanded a fleet that could destroy entire star systems. You single-handedly prevented a war. How is that not powerful? Because power is not about what weapons you control. It is about what you choose to do with the choices you have. They stopped by the fountain where they had talked before their wedding. It felt like a lifetime ago. I have been thinking about what you said, Zarathi continued, about starting over with honesty, and I want to try. But I need to know that you will never lie to me again. I promise, Jake said. No more secrets. No more deceptions. If you ask me something, I will tell you the truth, even if the truth might hurt me, especially then. Zarathi smiled for the first time since the revelation. Then I have a question for you. Are you happy that your secret is out? Jake thought about it. Yes, I am tired of pretending to be less than I am. I am tired of watching other species make the same mistakes over and over, because they do not know that someone is willing to help them. What happens now? Now humans become a visible part of the galactic community. We will probably make mistakes. Other species will probably make mistakes too. But at least we will be making them honestly. And what happens to us? Jake took her hand. That is up to us. We can be the first human-alien couple to build something real together. We can show the galaxy that different species can be partners instead of enemies. Or we can let fear and mistrust destroy what we started. But I would rather try and fail than never try at all. Queen Zarathi squeezed his hand. Then let us try. 6 months later, the Zephyrian-Human Alliance had become a model for cooperation throughout the galaxy. Other species were creating their own partnerships with humans. The Krillian Empire had signed a non-aggression pact and begun trading peacefully with their former enemies. Jake and Zarathi stood on the palace balcony, watching human and Zephyrian ships conducting joint patrols of their shared space. They had learned to work together as partners in both marriage and leadership. Do you ever regret it? Zarathi asked. Giving up your secret mission for me? Never, Jake replied. The mission was about protecting humanity. But protecting you protects something even more important. What is that? The possibility that we can all be better than we were before. In the distance, a new ship was approaching the planet. Its hull carried the symbols of both human and Zephyrian governments. It was the first vessel built jointly by both species, a symbol of what could be accomplished when people chose trust over fear. Admiral Sullivan's voice came over their personal communication system. Jake, we just received a message from Earth. The President wants to know if you would be interested in becoming the first human ambassador to the Galactic Council. Jake looked at his wife. What do you think? Ready to change the galaxy together? Zarathi smiled. I think the galaxy is ready for us. As they watched the sunset paint the crystal towers of Zephyria in shades of gold and silver, both of them knew that this was just the beginning. Humanity had revealed itself to the stars, and nothing would ever be the same. But sometimes change was exactly what the universe needed.